It's a very interesting thing that I see in society. Of course, I'm in my 50s, so when I was a teenager, we didn't have social media. I think we had like bag phones that you still carried around in your car at that time. That was the closest thing to, anything that we had, unless you had a Polaroid camera. But I do think that, my husband and I have a beautiful 21-year-old daughter. And raising a daughter in this environment is extremely challenging because they all have been naively led to believe that if you're not an influencer, if you don't get the attention, it is basically what establishes whether you're valuable or not, right? And which is so wrong. It's so the opposite. So, raising our daughter in that has been extremely challenging in teaching her that your value doesn't come from what other people see in you. Your value first starts with what you see in yourself, right? If you have no confidence, if you don't see yourself as valuable in whatever your passion is, whatever your thing is, if you don't see yourself as just valuable as a human, it doesn't matter what anybody else sees. There's nothing that is going to change from whether people on the outside are giving you that social media attention or that public attention that everyone seems to believe that they have to have. It first has to start in you. What do you see yourself as, right? Where do you see value in yourself? And my daughter happens to be very sweet and kind, and is all very much about making people feel included. She, wants everyone to kind of treat each other kindly and things like that. And she often feels like she's alone on an island because in this day and age, that's not how humans are treating each other, sadly. And she's like, why don't other girls treat each other the way that I treat them, right? And sometimes they don't even treat her that way in return. And so she's very much about, why is it that everyone is so selfish, so self-absorbed is really a better word. And they just can't, offer each other just basic human kindness and decency. And so it's really challenging to, and kind of disheartening to watch that not everyone, but so many young girls believe that their self-worth comes from what the outside world sees them as versus what they see themselves as. And I blame this completely on parenting. To me, this is all a parenting issue. Everyone wants to blame social media. And yes, it's an influencing factor, but it starts at home. It starts at home. This is a lack of being and doing the basic parenting functions that you should be doing. And that is, I see the area where I live, for instance, I see parents that are extremely absorbed in their own little groups and their little cliques. And, the women are more interested in, getting their nails done and having wine as a group than they are as, in what their 18 to 22-year-old daughters are doing. And so their exchange for that, instead of putting in the time and putting in the work to teach their daughters where their personal value comes from, they hand them a credit card and a nice car and say, go have fun with your friends. Because if you have friends, you must be popular, right? If you have friends, you must be popular. And if you have a credit card and a nice car, you're probably going to have friends, and therefore you're popular, and I don't have to worry about it, and I can keep doing my thing over here. And so I see a lot of that based in the area where I live. And so I think that there's a lack of parenting happening. a lack of parental responsibility. And unfortunately, I see it with boys too, but it's very prominent with girls. And I think it
Correct.
starts at
And
home.
you just gave me a nice way to look at this, because now I believe, just from what you said, that there can be two possibilities here. The first one is that either you don't know as a parent what's right and what's wrong, so you can't even teach your kids that. The second possibility is you don't want your responsibility. You are too busy and you don't have time for your kids, and you just want to hide that behind giving them the luxuries. And you know why I brought this up? I have a client of mine in Texas, and he is like 31 or 32 years. I don't have kids. I'm not married either. He has a 7 years old daughter, or maybe 9 years. If I'm like 7 or 9, maybe I forgot. She wants to use Instagram, and he told me that he is guiding her on why not to use Instagram. And I now he is a good person. He has time for his family because I know him. But this social media thing, or this information, like, I agree with you that as a parent you had the responsibility to teach your kid that this is right and this is wrong, and if you can't teach them, it's your responsibility. But this obsession has become so great. Maybe people want to earn money just after the first day they are born, and social media and being trendy is the new way of earning money. Maybe that is the problem. But this is something I was listening to John Wick, if you know him. He's an actor, and he shared a story that a girl, he told that girl about the movie Matrix. I don't know if you know about the movie. So he told her that, yeah, so that
Keanu Reeves.
everyone, the person is living in a virtual world, and then he realizes that he is living in a fake world. There is a real world as well. So John Wick is telling this story about the movie Matrix to that girl, and you know what the girl replied to him is that, what's wrong with that? Why can't he just live in the fake world? It has become so much okay with people, especially with girls.
Right. Right. We live in a world where make believe everything has become acceptable, right? And I'm going to do my best to stay away from things that are seen as political comments and whatever, because I don't really care who, politics wise. What I care about is that in this day and age, there is a belief that anything is acceptable and you can be anything you want, but that's a different kind of being anything you want than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, the being anything that you want meant you could achieve anything you want. You could be from the poorest family, from the poorest town, from the, whatever, and you could rise above that, and you could be a Bill Gates, or you could be a, whatever. Just because you said his name earlier, that was the first thing that popped into my head. But that you could be anything that you wanted to be, that your current situation didn't create your future. Now, what that make-believe world says is you can be a cat even though you're a human. You can be a dog even though you're a human. If you wake up tomorrow and you want to be a purple polka-dotted horse, and that's what you want to identify as, you can be that, right? And so there's the more fake, the more difficult to believe is almost the more acceptable that it has become. And what we see on social media with all of these girls, we had a client that manages social media influencers, and did very well doing so. But he was managing mainly young women whose sole goal was to use their personal appearance to reach and attain a level of prosperity than in wealth that they wanted. They didn't care that it might not be skill based or might not even take any skill, right? And these girls were spending, $10,000 to rent a yacht for a day to take photos on, and they're spending, $120,000 a year on clothing and whatever. And I'm sure they were making great money doing all this. But at the end of the day, what happens in society when everyone stops caring about the fake world and just wants to go, wants to get out of the matrix and go back to the real world? Like, what happens to all those people? They have no skills. They might have some, but they haven't, they don't know who they are. So how do you move forward with your life when you wake up and have no idea who you are? Because their identity that they've created in fake world is suddenly gone. So I don't know. To me, I think we are on a very, very slippery slope in society.